Now, here's the hosts of Top Story, KLIXcast and Jill Skeen.
Good morning and welcome to Top Story, 7360300, the number to call. Hello, Jill.
Hello, Kelly.
Guess what today is?
I kept thinking, this morning I literally had to stop myself and say, is today Wednesday? And I said, no, today is Tuesday. Election Day.
Yes, November 4th.
Please, everyone, be on your way to vote, on your way to work. Please,
yes.
please, please.
It's the American thing to do.
It is.
Now, one of the big excuses for not voting is, we moved and I don't know where we're supposed to vote. Well, you should have looked that up before, but in case you didn't, there is no excuse for that, because on our website at newsradio1310.com, there is a post there. You can click on the link where it says click here. It'll take you to idahovotes.com or org or whatever it is. And you can type in your address, and it will tell you where to vote.
Amazing.
So there's no excuse for not voting today.
And there's also an app that you can download. I believe Holly Woodings developed it. Remember she came on?
Yeah.
And I can't remember what it is, but there's an
Ida
app
Votes.
Ida Votes.
Ida Votes.
Way to go. Good memory. So anyway, there's no excuse at all.
Yeah.
Just plug it in.
You can do it. You can do this.
And there is same-day registration still in Idaho.
Yep.
So you can still vote even if you're not registered. Your same-day registration. So please get out and vote. This election is too important not to sit down and not to participate. Don't let someone else make the choices for you.
And when you're done voting, be sure to dip your thumb in that purple dye.
It'd be nice. It'd be nice. Get your little sticker out. We voted a couple weeks ago, but you know what? And I always liked Election Day. And I think if you're a parent, and I remember my sister does that, and her kids, I call my nieces and nephew, they're all voting. When they were little, she would take them to the voting booth with her.
Yeah. And
my nephew Jared, at 12, was making calls for one of his representatives, seriously, in Marblehead. He's now a news anchor, but my sister would say they didn't even want her to stay. They just said, can we have Jared? He did such a great job. I mean, get your kids involved in the process. Take them with you to the voting booth.
Absolutely.
Do something.
We got a call already, so shall I risk and take it? All right, Top Story, you're on the air. Good morning.
Hi, good morning. I have a good excuse for not voting. I watched the last presidential election.
Okay, why is that an excuse?
Because I saw all the fraud, all the voter fraud that went on at that. All the things where the media refused to allow Ron Paul to have anything to say in most of those debates. I saw all of that.
So what would you suggest that we do?
I suggested that one time, and you suggested that I should go stand with you. And because I refused to stand with you, some woman called me a chicken.
Oh, that was going to Washington with guns.
No, go without guns. Do not pick up guns.
Okay, do what? You know what? Your vote is the best thing. There was no fraud.
Yeah, right, and it means nothing.
Really? Well, if you don't vote, it means then no one can have your vote.
If you're not voting, whenever you call, I can't allow you to express an opinion anymore.
Okay.
Okay.
Sounds good to me.
Okay.
I mean, I'm sorry, that there was no fraud in that election. He won by a mile. I'm not even no, people have called in and said he won because 5 million votes were fraudulent. Give me a break.
I am not one to bury my head in the sand. I believe that there's probably some fraud in every election. We just don't catch it.
They have done studies and studies and studies. And I know the Republicans keep saying there must be voter fraud.
It's like saying right now, it's like saying, well, we got the last child molester off the street. You know, no, we didn't. There's voter fraud here and there. Whether it's enough to change an election, I don't know. Maybe not. But But to say there is no voter fraud, no, you can't say that.
31 cases out of 1 billion votes. If you
That's
really
voter
think,
fraud.
but
That's
if you
fraud.
think that changes an election, if you really think that Barack Obama won because 31 votes in a billion votes, which is not even, that was more than his election. Give me a break. Don't sit there and say that. Get out and vote. Don't sit there and be apathetic by that voter.
But don't say there's no fraud, because there is.
It's so minuscule that it doesn't
There's
affect
fraud,
an election.
But it's still fraud. It's still fraud.
Enough to disenfranchise people from voting. I mean, come on.
736-0300.
To say that Obama won because of fraud, no, that is not true.
736-0300. Top story, you're on the air.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Jill, you say that Obama wasn't elected because of fraud. Well, he was actually, because he's a fraud.
In what way?
He hasn't backed up things he's promised, but I don't want to get into that.
He was still elected, and you know what? Mitt Romney wasn't too honest about a lot of things either. So, the fact that people voted Obama... Oh, yeah. Oh, I'm sorry.
You know what? I think every politician is a crook, so...
I don't know if they're crooks, but I don't know. I mean, to me, a crook has a different terminology.
Let's talk about that a little bit, because everybody thinks that. Everybody thinks if you're a politician, you're a crook, and
that's
I don't think it starts out that way, and I don't know that they become crooks because they want to become crooks. That's kind of the way the system works. In order to get anything done, you have to compromise your beliefs and your values. And I'm not saying that's right and that's the way it should be, but that's the way it's turned out.
Well, it's one thing to compromise, to get something, legislation done or whatever. It's the other to compromise because you want financial backing. And that's what's happening. The money is running these elections. And with Citizens United, it has made it even worse. So I don't believe these people. And when I hear the term crook, I feel like it means like, I don't know, illegal taking of money, but I think that the money in elections has ruined our electoral process, and I think they need campaign finance laws, and I think that one of the worst decisions the Supreme Court made was Citizens United. And once you get into office, especially if you're a representative, you have to just, find money all the time to keep running for election. But you run for election for what? You're not representing the people. Why even want to be elected when you're not representing the people?
I printed out a story on that very thing.
If I had a dollar for every time you say this.
I don't think it printed out the table that I wanted, but at any rate, we're getting calls, so let's take them. Top story, you're on the air. Good morning.
Yes, no voter fraud. Yeah, I think it was Michigan. The clerks there, the person would go up to get a ballot, and she would go, and they got it on video. How many do you want? She would hand out like 100 ballots.
Oh, right. I don't believe it. I don't believe it.
It's on video. It's on video, Joe, because it's not on your CBS.
Oh, it must be on video, but you know what? You have no idea if it's absentee ballots. They had that video on Fox of the guy and it coming in with Bob.
There you go with Fox again. What about your CBS?
What about, well, if you let me finish, I'm sure you saw the footage of the Hispanic man in Colorado turning in all these ballots. Well, those were absentee ballots in August. It's, you have no idea what the footage is. There haven't been lawsuits. If there's so much fraud, where are the lawsuits? You didn't see them. I'm sorry. It's just pathetic to say that that's the only reason the president was elected. He was elected in a landslide.
We're going to get bogged down making accusations one side or the other, and there's no way for us here right now at this very moment to prove either way. There's some other things. The point is,
get out and vote.
Get out and vote.
Get out and vote. Make your vote count.
I wanted to talk about some things today. At last, campaigning is over. This is from UK Independent, and $4 billion later, more than 10 times the money committed by the U.S. to fight Ebola. The candidates fighting for 33 of the 100 seats in the U.S. Senate and all 435 seats in the House of Representatives will await their fate as the results begin to roll in today. That's not all. Voters in more than half of the U.S. states will also be electing governors as well as other state office holders such as Secretary of State and Attorney General. There was a story that I was reading, and sometimes my problem is I get engrossed in reading the story online, then I forget to copy it and paste it so that I can have it for reference. The one I was referring to was talking about right across from Capitol Hill. There is a building that houses a phone bank where senators and representatives go to make phone calls to get campaign contributions, to the tune of millions and millions of dollars. And they use up a lot of their time just doing Republicans, Democrats, Independents. It's kind of one of those things that's the way the system works, and that's what you have to do. But they felt it was too inappropriate for making these calls from the Senate and representative offices, that they set up a phone bank across the street where they can go to do this.
Because then they'll feel better about it. But, I mean, that's the whole point, because you've heard from a lot of representatives, and they are every 2 years, and you have to sit there and say, you know, when they're doing their business, fine, and then afterwards all they do is ask for money to be reelected to do what? I mean, are they representing the people? Are they representing the people who give them money? And you see it, how they change in their campaign speak. You see it even on climate change. George W. Bush actually was more in favor of climate change than they are today, but now the Koch brothers, who, you know, are heavily into oil, now you hear all these people saying, well, I'm not a scientist, so I can't comment. It's like, you know what? You're not a doctor, but you're making decisions on Ebola nurses. So, you know what? It's just pathetic, and you just have to wonder who's being bought, where the money's coming from. And it's sad that we haven't cleaned this up. It's just gotten worse in our elections.
Most Americans will not take part today.
That's sad.
Most Americans won't have taken part in the election. Somewhere between 55 and 65% of eligible Americans vote in the presidential election. It's about 130 million people in 2012. Far fewer, between 39 and 42% of Americans, take part in a midterm election. That's about 90 million in 2010. Democrats, I know you don't want to hear this, but it's the top story today, and everybody's talking about it. Democrats will lose the Senate.
Well, they don't know yet. They're predicted. I mean, that's a prediction, but you never know actually what's going to happen.
That's true. That's
true. It hasn't been fixed yet, has it, Kelly?
This is not a sure thing.
No, nothing's sure.
And Vice President Biden, at least, is still saying Democrats will keep their majority in the Senate today. But all indications are, and this is from CNN, this is not from Fox that you hate.
I understand. I've heard it for months that they've predicted this.
The GOP will gain seats, and most likely enough for a slim Senate majority. Republicans need to gain 6 seats to win the majority in the Senate. And I realize that it ain't final until after the vote is taken. Look what happened to Eric Cantor. Everybody knew he was going to win, and all of a sudden he loses.
Pollster said he was up by 34 points.
But it's something to keep an eye on today to see what's going to happen.
Everyone's keeping an eye on it.
Not too much will change. There might be a new Senate majority. Yes, Republicans will likely control both houses on Capitol Hill. They will control the schedule of the Senate floor, and they'll control what hearings will be held in both the House and the Senate. It will be even more difficult for President Obama to get a potential Supreme Court nominee, a confirmation vote, if a vacancy should arise, but Democrats still have well more than 40 votes they'll need to block just about any legislation they want. If what angers you about Washington, remember, voters are angry, is that nothing seems to get done, this election isn't likely to make you very happy.
No, it's going to be worse. They'll block everything. So great. You elect them in to do nothing. There you go.
We'll be right back on Top Story. I think we have Josh Palmer next about No Shave November.
And Ben Hammer, yes.
All right, we're going to talk about No Shave November here on Election Day. 7360300 is the number to call here this morning on Top Story. Welcome back. We're going to talk about No Shave November here shortly, but right now I just wanted to mention Certiset, which is a new way of irrigation. It's a new type of irrigation pipe. No more moving pipe, no more borders, no more spraying around the field, no more costly labor to move the pipe. And I realize that the irrigation season is done for the year. But next season, it's going to be starting up all over again, and you need to get a hold of the folks at Far More of Idaho and ask them about this Certiset, especially if you're thinking maybe you want to change your irrigation system, maybe make it more efficient, easier to handle. This is perfect for you. New technology in agriculture, and they've got it at Far More of Idaho. You can give them a call at 324-3341 or catch them online at farmoreofidaho.com. We have Officer Ben Hammer with us this morning from the Twin Falls Police Department. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Now, No Shave November is beginning to become a tradition with the Twin Falls Police, right?
It is. This is our second year.
You are the guy who started this.
I am the guy.
Wow,
Is it
you are
because you-
ground zero.
Is it because you hate to shave?
That was a little bit of it. I wanted to see what it felt like to not have to shave. Never
No.
done that before.
Because the protocol in the Twin Falls Police is what, no beards?
No beards. No beards. We can have mustaches, but we're not allowed to have beards on the road.
Okay, so
Okay,
why did
all
you
right.
decide to start this?
I decided to start this. My dad was diagnosed with prostate cancer when I was about 18. This was 6-7 years ago. He luckily survived. They were able to remove it, and he's doing well to this day. But No Shave November is an awareness program to raise awareness for prostate cancer, testicular cancer, and to get the word out there to help support surviving cancer patients.
Okay, so there's no money being collected. It's just kind of a thing that you...
It's word of mouth, but we are also collecting donations. Each officer with the Twin Falls Police Department donated $25, and then we're going out to the community, getting more money, and all that money is going to be donated to the St. Luke's Mountain State Tumor Institute here in Twin Falls.
Okay.
So it's all
Okay.
local.
Very good.
Goes to their emergency fund, which helps to support transportation for cancer patients to and from treatments, any food, any bills, anything that they may incur and just need some help with. It's
Well-
to help support our local community.
Will it help with any PSA screenings? So hopefully men will not have to deal with what your father did?
I'm sure it will. And the nice thing is, Misty came around last year to the PD even and talked with all of us about how to be healthier and how to raise awareness and get ourselves in the place where we don't have to deal with that hopefully in the future.
Because I think one of the most uncomfortable exams, at least you hear from you guys, are like, oh, I don't want to have my prostate checked. You know, deal with it.
Yeah, and
Have you had yours checked yet?
I have not.
What?
No, luckily, not until I'm 40. But
No way. You should get it checked anyway.
I
Come
should.
on.
That that would be really great.
Yeah, it would be.
It's just extraordinary.
You would
but
think in this day of modern technology, they would come up with a better way to check it.
You would think
A blood
they
test or
do,
something,
They do
you know?
have blood testing
They do have
nowadays,
a blood
but it's
test,
not
but-
as what is it, conclusive. I mean,
I see.
they say that the old
Finger.
way of doing
Well-
it'll probably work.
Well, let's get on it. Let's
The digital
let's
way.
make it as
Why
conclusive.
don't you start as an example? Why don't you and all the cops go down and get screened?
There you go.
Have a
Set up
little
that
digital
appointment.
exam. How does that sound? Come on, Kelly.
man.
Why not? Be a leader in this. Boy, he stopped talking fast, didn't he, Ben?
That'll shut you up real quick.
No, but really, that is one of the ways, and
is.
I think the younger the better. To have a baseline as to
Yeah.
what your prostate's like at this young age, Ben.
They don't
Yep.
recommend, though, that you start getting screened until later.
Yeah, and this is true. And, this whole thing, too, isn't just about, the big thing is about men, but we want to raise awareness for all cancer and be able to support everybody. That's why this money goes to the general emergency fund out there.
So when the folks out and about are pulled over by the fine officers of the Twin Falls PD and they see that they have a beard, they will know what this is all about.
They will know what this is about. And, I just want to throw this out there. If anybody does want to donate, we have an account set up at the First Federal Banks in Twin Falls, and it's called the TFPD No Shave Fund. And
Okay.
all of that money, every single dime, will be going towards St. Luke's.
So,
Yeah.
Ben, if you pull
Cool.
someone over and they say, I want to give you some money for the fund, is that going to be considered a bribe or something? Should people be careful here? Like, officer,
You should probably be careful on timing there.
I just wanted to help my
Yeah,
dad's
absolutely.
prostate. Come on.
Man, I feel bad about that. Yeah. You should probably be careful about timing, but I'm sure we'll be happy to take your money if you're willing to.
I'm sure
So
you
do the police have to pay a certain amount in order to be able to grow the beard? Is that kind of another?
It's $25, and we still have a little bit of protocol because we want to look like professionals still.
Yeah.
We have to shave the under parts of our neck to make sure we still look good, but for the most part, hopefully by the end of the month, we're going to be looking like some scruffy dudes.
What about the poor guy who just can't grow a beard?
We have a few of those, and unfortunately, they are ridiculed, and I feel bad for them.
Well, they got that paint that you can use,
That's
to
right,
fill in
you know.
the dead spots.
Yep.
So.
Yep.
Oh
and
my
I'm thinking some,
Or
maybe
yeah,
some
just
Rogaine.
like tape one
Yeah,
on.
Rogaine.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, you can tape one on. There you go.
Heck yeah.
All right.
How embarrassing.
Officer Ben Hammer with Twin Falls PD, thank you very much. Appreciate
you.
what you do, and good luck to you.
Great
Thank
cause.
you.
Stop shaving and be safe out there.
Thank you very much.
This is Top Story on News Radio 1310 KLIX. 7360300 is the number to call here this morning on Top Story. Welcome back. We have Steve Millington with us from the Twin Falls Republicans. I'm not even going to play the intro music today, you know?
Wait a minute. How can I live without my...
I know.
Well, you'll just have to.
I have to have
Deal.
my tunes, man. I got to have
You
my
have to
tunes.
be flexible.
We're going to be apolitical during this 30 minutes here today.
Oh, man.
We're going to
Well,
talk about...
today's election day.
Yeah, it is, and, you know, so we just want people to vote.
Yeah.
You know...
Now, speaking about voting, some interesting things about early voting already. In 2010, 4 years ago, in Twin Falls County, they had approximately 3,200, and I'm rounding these numbers off. Don't hold me to the approximately 3,200 early voters. Either they went to the polls and voted, or they did absentee ballots, or 3,200. In 2012, the presidential election year, it was just over 7,300. Way over double the number from 2010.
Presidential year.
This year, this year, as of yesterday, Monday morning, early, the number was 3,850 and change. So we're ahead of the off-year election from 2010, but we're still only half of the presidential election year numbers.
Well, the Secretary of State, Ben Isursa, is predicting 58% of Idaho's registered voters will turn out in today's general election.
Let's see how good he is after all those years.
Yeah, exactly. The amount is equal to almost 40% of Idaho's voting age population. Isursa says he's disturbed by the consistent decline in voter participation despite the removal of voter obstacles. And I know we have Election Day registration, but I didn't realize that Idaho was one of only 8 states that do that.
Yeah, we're in a minority there. Someone stopped in to a headquarters facility over on Blue Lake. We can't be political. The GOP headquarters on Blue Lake. And they wanted to know where they could go vote and some of the requirements. Well, we had a map in there that showed, give us your address. We can tell you which precinct you're in, your polling place, and a list of, take a voter ID. You can register at the polls, blah, blah, blah. And they told, we appreciate that so much. Thank you. We're going to be sure and vote tomorrow. And I thought to myself, well, good for you that you're going to go vote. The unfortunate thing is you're this close to voting and you don't know yet where you're supposed to go vote.
Yeah, I know.
Well, they could be new into town, and they could have moved.
That's what I just wrote it off, and I said to myself, give them a break. They're concerned enough
Be
that they're
compassionate.
checking out, where do I vote, what requirements, blah, blah,
And
blah.
we are last-minute folks, so,
We
that's
are.
just how we are.
We do have a lot of new people in town if you did move to a new area. And sometimes polling places have changed. Didn't they change a few over the last few years? People just want to make sure.
They did 2 years ago after the redistricting arrangements. Many of the polling locations
Well,
changed.
it's very easy to find out where you vote. In fact, we have a link on our website,
Yes.
newsradio1310.com. It is a link directly to idahovotes.com. And you just go there, you type in your address, and it will tell you where you vote. It will give you the address and everything, the name of the building, and, it's
so it's
pretty
not
cool.
hard to find it.
No, it's not. There's no excuse for
get
not
lost
voting.
or something.
And even at that, I believe you can call the county clerk's office, and they will direct you where to
Yes,
vote.
Do we
they
have that
will.
number? Let me look up that number.
736-4004.
Is it?
I think it is.
Well, are you for sure? Because I don't want to give out the wrong one.
I'm sorry. I left my cell phone out in the pickup, but I think that's the number I called yesterday. It was 736-4004.
Okay, well, let's just see, because instead if we give out the wrong number,
Yeah.
then what?
Well, the phone's ringing. I'm going to go ahead and
All
pick it up,
right,
shall we?
sure.
Top story. You're on the air with Steve Millington.
Hey, yeah, it's even easier than that. Yesterday I am a last-minute person, but I live in Jerome, and I swear I vote in a different building every time.
I know.
It's absolutely ridiculous. They should just get us all into one big room. Anyway, so yesterday I just got on Google and then did where do I vote right in the search, and it brought up a little search thing as one of the things. You just type in your address. It wasn't an Idaho website or anything, but it brought up in Jerome, Idaho, where I'm supposed to vote, and a link through Google Maps and everything. It was super easy to find out.
Let's find out if it's accurate. Call us after you vote.
I did. Okay. I actually did. I called
Okay.
the county clerk, and I wanted to make sure I knew the times that they were open and closing, too. So
I think it's 8-8 today.
8-8,
Yeah, exactly. Hey, thanks for that story.
That's
That's good.
interesting.
Yeah,
That's good.
I
Well,
did
the
that-
county clerk's number, you're right. Did you say 736-4004? Way to go, Steve.
4004.
All right,
What a
so no
memory on
excuse.
that guy, huh?
I'm
At least
just
there's one
kinda
thing.
numbers oriented. Yeah.
Well, if anybody in this country could come up with a way to increase voter participation, they would be considered a god, you know?
Well,
so,
and the question is, how come that we have become so lackadaisical, so complacent, so I don't know, apathetic? Why is that?
But then in some states, they're limiting people's rights to vote. So you know what? I think that's outrageous. Come on, we all need to vote.
7360300 is the number to call.
The rest of us
7360300 is the number to call here this morning on Top Story. We'll get back to Steve Millington here in just a moment. We're going to try to solve some problems here. But the folks at Clearwater Power Equipment want you to know they've got Echo chainsaws and leaf blowers. And as I was driving by there the other day, I saw a little hydraulic wood splitter out there, too.
And it's still there, or did you purchase it?
Not yet.
Little hoarder.
But,
I know.
I don't cut wood, so I don't really have a need for one of those yet.
That doesn't matter,
But
Kelly, with you.
I know. I just like tools.
I
hoard
know.
tools. But if something like that sounds appealing to you, especially if you have a chainsaw and you're out cutting that wood for the wintertime, don't use the axe, for crying out loud. That is an old-fashioned tool. A hydraulic log splitter is what you need now. And leaf blowers.
Yes.
Don't use an old-fashioned rake. Use a leaf blower. And they've got them at Clearwater Power Equipment. And that's all they deal in, so they have answers to your questions. And they are at 252 Washington Street in Twin. You can also give them a call at 734-7767. And our number is 7360300. Top Story, you're on the air with Steve Millington.
Good morning, Steve. Good morning, Kelly. Good morning, lovely Jill.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Steve, I got a question for you. Would you agree with me, and would you please tell all the good listeners of the Magic Valley that you would stand with me in disclosing the mystery donors that the Republican and Democratic Party get? Don't you think it would be a good idea to, because that lends itself to more fraud and voter fraud? That's what I think. Would you agree with me on that one?
Mystery donors, Steve.
Well, you know, one of the interesting things about that mystery donors thing is that if an individual makes a donation to your campaign that exceeds $50, the Secretary of State's office, this is an Idaho campaign, I don't know about the federal ones, this is an Idaho campaign, you have to identify the individual's name and an address. So if they just walk up to you and hand you a $100 bill and say, this is for your campaign, whoa, stop the bus, everybody back up. Who are you and what is your address? Because you have to report that on your campaign filing reports. Now, from the federal government, they make anonymous contributions to political action committees. And the limit on that is...
There is no limit.
Well,
That was Citizens United. There's no limit.
But you can donate up to $5,000, I think, and still be anonymous.
Well,
Once you
yeah,
get past
but I think a
past
corporation,
hurdle.
there's no limit for them. But
Well,
if you're
yeah,
an
corporations can
individual,
just
yeah,
keep
you have to.
making.
I know.
It's interesting, Kelly. In the first segment, you made a reference about a article that you referenced, and it had a list in there of political campaign contributions to the members of the House and Senate, and it had them all listed in detail on that thing. That's amazing. How much money all those people have raised.
Yeah.
For Senate seats, the average political contributions was in the $7.5 to $8 million range, and for House seats, it was more like 2.5 maybe. And I thought to myself, "Holy Moses, that's a lot of money."
Yeah. That's the one that I referenced to you that I didn't print out, unfortunately.
And I didn't. The little. I didn't print it either, but the little chart in there was embedded, and you couldn't get it to print up. Right. Or at least I couldn't. Maybe somebody that knows what to do with computers could.
Well, maybe that's what happened. Maybe I did print it, and it just
didn't show up.
As a matter of fact, I think you're right, because I had several pages of just a little indicator on each page. I'll bet that's what it was.
That's what I probably.
But Steve, it's kind of
a couple of things.
Yeah.
Mike Simpson raised $1.3+ million. Raul Labrador was $850,000 plus or minus, and I don't have the numbers in front of me, so I'm going from memory, but I think that's pretty close. But I found it interesting that even in Idaho, that's a whole lot of money.
Yeah.
Well, I think they're challenged more this year than they were before. Look what Simpson spent in that primary with Brian Smith. That was outrageous for Idaho standards.
Uh-huh.
But I was going to say, and Kelly brought it up, was when you look at some of the money people spend, like Rick Scott in Florida, yeah, he's a billionaire. He's spending $20 million of his own dollars for a $200,000 job. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, does that even make sense? And you say, why? What? Just the power? Does that make sense?
It's the ego trip and the power, and the amount of money that they get paid, the salary that
it's nothing.
That's of no consequence. It is the ego trip. It is the power thrust. It is the everybody knows who you are, and everybody comes rushing up and wants to shake your hand and take a selfie picture with you and do all these things. And
it's like a celebrity. It's celebrity status is what it is.
It is a celebrity status, but in the political arena.
Right.
And those people they go crazy on that stuff. I mean, it's over the top. And if you want to have some fun, you want to try to take 30 seconds away from their allotted speaking time.
Yeah.
Whoa, you're going to get stepped on. So
it's just an ego fest, actually.
It absolutely is nothing more than a great big huge ego trip. Just unbelievable.
I mean, $20 million for a $200,000 job. I'd be like, okay, hon, I think this is bad. You are clearly a bad investment, especially for the state of Florida.
And I'll tell you what I think. When we get down to the after the election campaign spending reports, we are going to be surprised in Idaho the amount of money that was spent to elect a governor.
Sure.
Yeah. I'll bet that number's going to be somewhere north of $4 million.
Well, Beloukov himself has spent over $3.5 million was the latest figure I found of his own money.
I'm going to change that number. I'll bet we spend close to $5.5 to $6 million in Idaho for a governor race.
But it's hard though when you're getting outside money, and there aren't a lot of Democrats in the state, and if he has the funds to try to keep up, I mean, basically, who has the most money wins, which is sad. Because they're inundated with this advertising.
That's not always true, though. That's
not always, but you have to wonder. Well, like with Eric Cantor, but I don't even know if he even campaigned much. I don't know. No, he did. He spent $5 million on that race, and he lost. Eric Cantor, and his challenger spent less than what Eric Cantor spent on steak dinners a year. I think $176,000 is what he spent.
That same scroll down box, Eric Cantor was in there, and I think that he raised.
It was over $5 million.
I want to say it was like $7.5 million.
Well, could have been.
Because when I was scrolling down through it, his name popped up, and I thought, "Oh, look at there, he lost." And I looked at the number, and I said, "Whoa, that's a lot of money to lose."
But then he actually won. He's making $3 million for a lobbyist. Anyway.
Top story. You're on the air. Good morning.
Yeah, I think you guys are coming up with the answer to the question of why some people don't vote. I know what I hear from my kids is that the government's so frustrating right now is that nothing ever gets done, and their vote's not going to count anyway. And even if they do vote, and it's hard to educate yourself. That voting's hard. We don't vote for somebody. We vote against somebody. And
vote for the lesser of the evils.
So we're, I think there's just a lot of frustration on the voters' part. And
like,
one of the things in Idaho, I wish we had a better turnout in the primary, because I think a lot of people are also complacent that nothing's going to change once the primary is over anyway. We've got a couple of close races this year that are pretty good, but, for the most part, our votes are moot by the time. And in a national election, the decisions are already made. You watch on television before our polls even close tonight.
Yeah.
We'll know who's in control of the House, or they'll be projecting it anyway, or the Senate. So.
Well, I think they stopped advertising that, didn't they? Till the votes have closed everywhere.
I think they did. I think they did pare back on that a bit.
Because you're right. I mean, it's depressing, but I still think there's no excuse not to vote. I'm sorry.
I agree.
You have to vote. Your vote does count. We have Richard Stallings in here. He won by 61 votes once, didn't he? Say something like that.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Every vote counts, and you have to. You can't give up. You can't give up. You can't be apathetic, and your vote counts. Get out there and vote today.
7360300. Top story. You're on the air.
Hi. I just wanted to comment. It's like I was telling my wife last night. We were both talking about this, and when the founders and back in the early days, it was supposed to be service, a voluntary service, people to get in there and serve their, local area or their state or whatever, the country. And for these men to come in and expend so much time and money and effort to try to get into office, you have to wonder, what's really going on. We know, but I don't think everybody's motives are as pure. Maybe some are purer than others, but
I wonder, my big question when someone is running, and I'm not saying this is good or bad, I'm just saying it's what pops into my mind is, what are they trying to get out of this?
Yeah,
is it personal gain? Is it something for the betterment of the country? And I'm sorry, but that's how I feel. Somebody says they're going to run, okay, why are you running?
Yeah, what's your objective?
Yeah.
But you know what? The most important elections are really local and state. And that's where was that article? 24,000 laws are passed statewide. And that's what's affecting people. And it's not so much national, but you really have to decide who's going to represent you locally, who's going to represent you statewide. And that's what's affecting people. And you have to get out there and vote for not just the party, but what's best for Idaho, what's best for you.
736-0300, top story, you're on the air.
Morning, guys.
Good morning.
Morning.
Hey, I just wanted to say one thing that I'm really frustrated with this year. This decision to force us in the state of Idaho to allow gay marriage when we as Idahoans voted against that. That tells me right there that our vote doesn't count for much. And when I hear people complaining about how much Butch Otter has spent trying to fight it, that frustrates me even more. I'm not a huge fan of Butch Otter, but by the same token, at least he's trying to stand up for what the citizens of Idaho want.
Well, he stated that. He's trying to uphold the Idaho Constitution, but in this case, the federal overtakes the state.
That's right. And our caller makes a very interesting observation. We're asking ourselves, why do people not vote? Why are they staying away? Why don't they get out and vote more? And he hit the nail right on the head.
Yeah.
What difference does it make? We, as a state, we pass a state constitution amendment that defines marriage, and the feds destroy it. We pass other various laws and things, and some judicial decree strikes it down. And so eventually we reach the point where we say to ourselves, well, what difference does it make?
Yeah.
My vote doesn't make any difference. They're going to do what they want to do anyway. What difference does it make?
Well, they found it unconstitutional,
and
they found
fine.
it discriminatory, and so you can't pass laws to discriminate
then
against other people.
Go back to the state of Idaho and say, you people have to rethink this thing. You need to have a new constitutional amendment. But
I think they were just told that. By the federal courts.
They're not going to be another amendment to the Constitution. The federal courts are just going to strike it out and say this doesn't apply.
As well they should.
Why don't we just strike out everything we don't like and say this doesn't apply? Well, then why should I vote? Because my vote doesn't have any impact and it doesn't make any difference. Some dingle fritz with a robe on is going to decide what happens and what doesn't. I don't count.
But that happens with every law,
So they don't
Steve.
vote. And so our disenfranchisement with the public process, with government in total, just gets trampled to the point where people say, what the heck?
Yeah.
Well, that's sad.
736-0300, top story, you're on the air.
Well, good morning.
Good morning.
I have two things that frustrate me about the election. Voter intimidation and international money. There's no reason why in presidential or any election that there should be any money coming from any other country. And I noticed the last election, presidential election, there was quite a bit of money that come from overseas.
And you know what? We do the same thing to other countries'
and
elections.
Hold on, I got another one.
It's true.
And along with the voter intimidation, 2008 elections, whenever I saw those Black Panthers standing outside of voting booths with clubs. Now, that was ridiculous, and nobody did nothing about it. As a white person, you were intimidated.
You know what? What's happening right now with voter ID laws, what's happening in the states right now today You should be concerned about that. People are being disenfranchised all over this state.
I think he
all
is,
over
but
this
I
country.
think he was concerned about the Black Panthers with clubs too. I mean, it's a two-way street.
That's right.
So
and
you can't justify that away by saying, "Well, they're doing it today." So.
Get out and vote.
No, but I mean, so
President Bush
what?
did that too, so it's okay if Obama did it.
It's not okay to do it, but why aren't people screaming about what's happening today on Election Day in this country?
This conversation gets into a type of deal. Well, so-and-so did it, so it's okay if we do it.
It's not okay. The point is, where's the outrage for the voter enfranchising, which is happening today in Texas, North Carolina, Georgia, and it's by the Republicans.
This is Idaho. Get out and vote.
Because the Republicans are the source of all evil.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
They know that's how they're going to win an election.
You're listening to the left-wing media too
Wait a
much.
minute. This was supposed to be a non-political...
Those are absolute facts.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you.
Get out
See you
and
next
vote,
time.
people.
And welcome back to Top Story, and I almost forgot it again, Bill. Holy smokes! Yes, indeed, ladies and gentlemen, it is voting day in America. Get out there and vote.
And then this apathy.
Unless
Come
you're a
on.
low information voter, then you should just stay at home.
Oh, hey, there's plenty. But I think they should vote too. Get informed. You have till 8 o'clock tonight.
That would be the best thing to do. Get
and
informed.
you know what? We interviewed a lot of the candidates on our website. You can go back and look at old shows and listen to interviews.
That's right.
Would have been nice if they're all in one little spot, like I suggested. But no, didn't happen.
Heavens no.
But anyway, you know what? We did interview. There's no excuse. Google. It's so easy today. Look up someone's position. Look up their website.
Everybody
get
has
involved.
a website. Everybody running has a website.
Everyone, you got a smartphone.
It might be a few years old, but it's
you do
a
on your
website.
smartphone. Do something. Talk to people. Talk to your neighbors. Get educated. Go out and vote.
This hour I did a little informal survey on my Facebook page and on newsradio1310.com Facebook page about negative attack advertising, if it helps you decide. And I just have to say, overwhelmingly, everybody says no.
They hate it.
I hate it, I hate it, I hate it, I hate it. And yet, time after time, it appears to work. Here are just some of the comments I got. Nope, but they do encourage me to research the topic, so that's a good thing.
Okay, I like that one.
Yes.
There you go.
Nope, but the action or inaction of incumbents plays a huge role.
Well, then they should be busy today voting for the opposite.
No, I want candidates to tell me instead why they have chosen to be public servants, what is their plan to secure my freedom at all levels, and how they intend to execute that vision.
Well, these sound like very informed voters.
They do. No, I think they distract people from the real issues and show politicians for the petty, self-centered jerks that they often are.
Mm-hmm. I know.
So,
what does it say more about you when you're doing these bad ads?
One said, I get quite upset when they do use those ads, especially if I like a certain candidate. They should both focus on the issues.
I know.
Let's see. What else did we get? No, no, and no.
What was the question again?
Yeah, right. Do
ads
do the negative ads help you make a decision?
Right.
One said, not really. Pretty much I have my mind set. So, and then it goes on and on. Everybody is voting no, no, no. And then but it does seem like negative advertising does work when it comes right down to it. Because how many times have you seen a certain candidate is ahead, and then all of a sudden there will be this barrage of negative campaigning against them, and they wind up losing?
Or, ads that come out. I mean, the one that I think really hurt Romney was the 47% video that was turned into an ad of the waiter who was working the event and, wanted to hear Romney speak and, just recorded it because he was working and ta-da. Look what he found out, and I think that comment hurt him terribly. But also, you have the Willie Horton ad that hurt Michael Dukakis, that Lee Atwater used, who actually on Ron Brown's deathbed, he's sitting there, apologizing for running it. So, you know what? There's a lot of sleaze and a lot of dirty tricks, and it's sad that happens in our elections.
736-0300, top story. You're on the air. Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning, guys. Jill, love you, dear. Got a heart of gold. I just
I'm
wanted
waiting
to
for
throw
the
something out
butt.
there. I heard A.J. Palukov has spent millions of his own money trying to get a job that pays less than $120,000 a year.
I know.
$3.5 million was the last I heard.
Oh, wow. Yeah. That right there either shows you how corrupt it is, or it's got a pretty dang good dental plan.
Or maybe he wants to make a difference in the state. And like we were talking about, when you're in a state such as Idaho and you're a Democrat, you're not getting the funds, you're not getting the outside money. And in order to compete, I mean, that's what's sad. If we had campaign finance laws, that would be interesting, you know? I mean, I think $3.5 million compared to $20 million for a $200,000 job, you wonder. But I think he's trying to make a change in the state.
I don't think it's wrong to spend your own money to get elected.
Yeah, I mean, you're spending your time, and why not?
I just wonder why you would do that. And like I say, it's either because you are really committed to helping the state or helping the country or whatever it is, or you have ulterior motives. So I don't know, or it's the power ego thing.
I have more respect for someone spending their own money to believe in themselves, you know, if they want to do it. I mean, you're putting yourself on the line. Great.
Yeah.
Then outside groups from outside states that are influencing our elections.
I have to agree.
I'm like, if you're willing to do it, and he spent a lot of time campaigning, you know what? I think it's great he's putting his own money in if he's not getting the donations to match with the outside money that's coming into the state.
I don't know if Butch Otter spent any of his own money or not. I haven't really heard this
Well,
year,
he got $100,000 from the RGA. He's gotten money from outside groups. So, you know, I don't think the Democratic Party is helping AJ in this state because they say it's a loss. It's a wash. It's a red state. So, you know what? If he's willing, I would do it too. I would be like, hey, I'm out there, and if I'm not getting the donations and I want to buy TV ads, okay.
736-0300, top story, you're on the air.
Another issue is this one caller that called in a while ago saying how we had same-sex marriage shoved down our throat. Well, that goes back to the Ninth Circuit Court, and they have messed over Idaho before. They were put in back when the West was unpopulated. Now we're populated. We need to get a 10th Circuit Court to cover Idaho and maybe Washington and Oregon or whatever, 3 or 4 other states, and get away from the California Ninth Circuit Court.
There's been a lot of talk about that, and as a matter of fact, too, one of the issues that have been brought up is the Ninth Circuit Court has such a huge area that it has so many cases that it's hard to keep up.
And especially when judges aren't being confirmed. So there you go. But the thing of it is, too, is it's not just that was the only court. I mean, the other courts have ruled on this. It's legal in 32 states. You can't have laws that discriminate against people. It's found unconstitutional. And the Supreme Court didn't take the case.
And I don't want to get off on a discussion on that again, because at this point it is a moot point. There's nothing we can do right now to fix this, and we've talked about this ad nauseum. So, you know, I've heard talk about getting away from the Ninth Circuit Court, which is based in San Francisco, because it is a more liberal area, more liberal judges. I don't know. I don't know if anything's...
But other courts have ruled the same way across the country. So it's not just the Ninth Circuit. And that's why the Supreme Court didn't take it up, because every court decided it was unconstitutional.
There is another article. In fact, I found one of the articles that I was looking for a while ago.
Finally, before the show ends. Thanks,
How
Cal.
much does it cost to win election to Congress? This also was from the Independent in the UK. A year ago, we wrote about a fantastic episode of the radio program This American Life, which was all about lobbying. One part of it revealed just how much time our elected officials in Congress spend fundraising.
Yeah.
And the numbers were somewhat astounding. Both major political parties have set up, remember I was telling you about those phone banks? They've set up phone banks across the street from the Capitol because it's seen as demeaning to do the calls directly from your congressional office. And members of the House and the Senate spend a ridiculous amount of time there. The report suggested multiple hours each day on average, just focused on raising money for their re-election campaign. The folks at MapLight recently used Federal Election Commission data on the 2012 elections to work out just how much it costs to win a seat in Congress. House members, on average, each raised $1,689,580, an average of $2,315 every day during the 2012 cycle. Senators, on average, each raised $10,476,451, an average of $14,351 every day during the 2012 cycle.
And that's average, because some races are way more. Like you had the Elizabeth Warren race.
Right.
Was that 45 million?
Just move ahead here. It says, digging deeper, we see that the campaign that got the highest amount of money is Elizabeth Warren's Senate campaign, which raised $42,506,349.
Yeah, I read her book, and it was interesting because, she wasn't really in politics. She was a professor, and, she had done stuff on committees to help, she was tasked to help with, financial stuff. I mean, she wasn't in politics. I mean, that was shocking to her. And people are saying they're going to have to raise how much money? 40-something million, to win this race is crazy because of the outside money, the outside influence, the lobbyists. And it's just shocking because I think how much money could help Americans.
That's a real outlier, as the second highest amount was less than half that.
Yeah.
Sherrod Brown, who raised $20,945,000.
In Ohio.
The lowest amount for a Senate campaign was Angus King, the independent from Maine, who raised $2,964,000. Though he's beloved in Maine, and most people thought he had the campaign locked up from the beginning.
Plus, they don't have as large a population in Maine as you do in Massachusetts.
There were a few other campaigns around $3 million as well. At the very least, the data suggests that $3 million is the basic entry fee. The median for Senate campaigns pops out at $9,341,000. Not far off from the mean. That median campaign was Dean Heller's. So, and then on the House side, there were a few clear outliers topped by Michelle Bachmann's $25,894,000. Though the author here says, I assume much of that was raised back when she was running for president, so not particularly representative. The other outlier on the high end, Speaker of the House John Boehner's $22 million. No one else came even remotely close. Third place was House Majority Leader Eric Cantor, who took in $7.6 million. Note that Bachmann and Boehner actually raised more than any victorious Senate campaign other than Warren's. The lowest amount raised in the House would be, and I can't even pronounce his name, I can't pronounce it, who raised $110,000.
And won.
Of course, he's a non-voting delegate to the House representing American Samoa's at-large
district.
There you
go.
So that explains that. The money involved in getting into office today is absolutely astounding.
Think how many people could help.
We'll be right back. 736-0300 is the number to call. Started the conversation at the top of the hour, but got off onto how much it costs to get elected. We're going to talk about negative advertising, if you think it really works. We've had a lot of people weigh in on Facebook, but I kind of want to see what you have to say. But before we do that, I want to remind you that the word of the day is brought to you by the good friends at Happy Landing Restaurant.
It always sounds happy.
It is. It is happy. It's a nice place.
Kelly's favorite place to go for lunch.
It is. I eat there all the time. In fact, I'm going back out there Thursday. Our weekly ham radio group gets together and eats out there.
If you ever want to see Kelly, go to the Happy Landing Restaurants on Thursday for lunch. Just a hint.
But at any rate, if you're a first-time visitor to the Happy Landing Restaurant and you purchase a drink, coffee or pop or whatever, and you tell them you heard about it right here on News Radio 1310, they'll give you a free piece of homemade pie.
Wow, that is a Kelly marketing plan if I ever heard one.
So anyway, Keep that in mind. And it's at the airport. You don't have to be going anywhere or coming from any place. You just go out there and eat. Have a good time. Twin Falls Airport.
I used to work at an airport, a restaurant off an airport in Columbus, Ohio.
Yeah.
It's like, and I would sit
Another
there.
job you've had that you never told us about.
Well, I've been a waitress. I've been a hostess. It was, when you're younger and you want to make money. But I would just, and the runway was right there. And I would just sit there and fantasize, like, wouldn't that be fun just to go to the airport and just go up to any desk and any flight and just say, take me somewhere. I would always wonder, where are these people going? And I think that would be great. Pack a bag.
Is that how you wound up in Texas?
No, that's even more odd. But anyway, I always say that to Tom. Let's just pack a bag, go to the airport, and pick a flight. And he thinks that's the most awful idea ever. And I'd be like, oh, it'd be fun, Anyway,
well,
I digress.
You
So
digress.
anyway, it's fun to go to an airport and eat at a restaurant there.
The word of the day. Okay, yesterday's $100 instant winning name is Steve Tengai.
Steve Tengai, congratulations.
And your $100 word of the day for today is, of course, election.
Election.
Go to our website, newsradio1310.com. Click on word of the day. Type in election, ELECTION, election.
My word of the day is vote.
Yeah, that'd be good too, but it's not the word of the day.
But that's not the word of the day. The word of the day is election.
Now you confused
Just
him.
Go out and vote, though.
So enter that word. If you hear your name tomorrow and you played the word today, you win $100, just like that. 7360300 is the number to call. Negative campaign ads. Do they work? Now, you might not like them.
For or against?
They may be abhorrent to you, but do they work? Has it put a little question in your mind about the person you thought you might be voting for? Really? I didn't know that. Is that true?
And the thing, if it is when you see that, you do have to investigate to see if it is true. Google it. Do not take this for face value because they usually aren't. The thing that bothers me about election advertising is you have to have truth in advertising and everything else. You have to say that those sneakers, firm or tushy, if they do or don't, and Skechers got nailed for that. But you can say whatever you want in election advertising. It doesn't have to be. There's no truth in advertising in election.
Even when they use the words of the other person, it's usually out of context. And I've seen that many, many, many times. So anyway, 7360300 is the number to call. We got a person waiting here. Top story. You're on the air. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Kelly and Jill.
Kyle.
Hey, this goes back to our little discussion yesterday, isn't it, Jill?
I'm not sure. What are we discussing? We were just discussing about get educated
how
and
you need,
vote.
Yeah, you need to educate yourself because
I do.
Anything can be taken out of context.
It's true.
As far as your topic is, it must work because they keep doing it.
I
don't like it at all. I wish it'd go back to the days where people would discuss what they're going to do, what is their plan, what is their vision, and so on. Nowadays, it's all about what the other guy did.
Or didn't do.
Or did it. It's just nuts. Yeah. I mean, we need to get back to the baseboard principle and don't forget to vote.
I know. Did you vote yet,
Kyle? Call your friends and text your friends and vote. No, I'm heading out here in a minute to go do it.
Hey, Kyle, one quick thing, because you're from Hawaii. What about that poor town covered in lava? They were worried about voting there.
Oh, yeah. Well, that volcano's been going on for a long, long time, and it's eaten a lot of property.
Yeah, that was no surprise to them.
And if you've ever kept up with it, the Big Island has been growing every year because of it. It gets bigger and bigger every year. The only problem is that lava's useless for a long, long time.
Yeah, it'll be millions of years before we can plant anything on it, I'm sure.
Now, that's a situation. Yeah, thanks, Kyle. That's a situation where you hoped you voted early because the polling area apparently they're not going to be able to go out and vote.
Yeah,
but anyway.
Interesting story here on negative campaign ads, and we're going to approach that when we come back after the break. And I just wanted to say that, and everybody knows I am not a fan of President Obama. But let me tell you something. When I see these little clips of video on Facebook where Obama says something that is taken totally out of context, and everybody is commenting like, "Oh my God, we got to get rid of this guy because he's advocating genocide or something because that's what he just said, and it's taken out of context." That's not helping people.
No.
It's not helping. It's a lie. It's taken out of context. Stop doing that. I mean, if you want to condemn the guy, condemn him with truth, but not lies. Okay, we'll be right back.
Well said, Cal.
7360300 is the number to call here this morning on Top Story, as it always is. And you've heard us talking, me mostly, about the low and honey loader from Stanley and Company. Now, there's not a whole lot of things that you can say different about the low and honey loader. I mean, it is what it is. It loads manure and any type of manure.
Yeah.
That is any viscosity of manure. All right?
We got it.
And,
we got it.
And you can load up to 7 miles an hour. And it's the cat's meow for a big feeding operation. And not everybody has need for a low and honey loader. But if you have a big feeding operation, you may have need for one. And if you would like to see one of these in operation, Pat Hartzell is the guy to call. He can also sell you one. I'm pretty sure he probably goes around with a contract in his pocket. You know, any good salesperson does. So you call Pat, say, Pat, I'd like to see one of these in operation. He'll make an appointment for you so you can go to one of these dairies and watch it work. And
I want to see one work.
And I think that would be kind of
We need to go out. We've already done the pawn shop, our bucket list before you leave December 31st. I want to see you scoop faster than the 7 mile per hour honey loader. That's what I want to see.
All right. Well, we'll see if we can make that happen. Pat's number to call is 280-1167. That is his own personal cell phone. You don't have to go through the store, although you can. But his number is 280-1167. Pat Hartzell with Stanley and Company. Okay, negative campaign ads, do they work? This from Independent UK. There is a broadly held public sentiment that political campaigning is more negative and unethical than it ever has been. Whether that's historically true or not, however, is the subject of some debate. Politicians have long thrown mud at each other, and the history of negative campaigning reaches back to the earliest days of this nation.
Yeah.
And it certainly does.
It does, yeah.
Then, as today, rumor and gossip feed a press and public hungry for scandalous tales.
Which there's no shortage of, unfortunately.
Yeah. Setting aside the question of whether or not things have gotten worse, there remain to be addressed important questions about the effects of negative campaigning. However, clear answers to these questions are not readily forthcoming because research on negative campaigning and negative campaign advertising has yielded conflicting results. Some studies suggest that negative campaign ads are more easily remembered and therefore have a greater influence on voters' attitudes and vote decisions.
You think because they're like so outrageous when you listen to them, you're like, are you kidding me? And then it hits in your head?
I don't know if that's probably part of it. Another part of it is probably there's that inkling of a possibility that it is true, and it puts a question in your mind. It's like a jury with the shadow of a doubt. You have to be convinced beyond a shadow of a doubt. And if a good attorney can get up there and place some little minuscule amount of doubt in your mind, they've got you.
Like OJ.
Yeah. Other research, however, provides evidence that the opposite is true. Moreover, while some research suggests that candidates who run negative ads are more likely to win, other research suggests that running negative ads makes a candidate more likely, or at least equally likely, to lose.
Well, you hear so many people, I mean, just talking in the grocery store with someone, they're so tired of the ads, negative ad, you hear it all the time.
Yeah, I know. And including on here.
Yeah.
I mean, we're running political advertising, and I'll say it again, we're making a ton of money off of the election. We always do.
Every media outlet is.
Yeah, absolutely. There are also conflicting conclusions about the effect of negative advertising on voter turnout. Some research concludes that negative campaigning depresses the turnout, while other findings suggest that intense competition, often characterized by negative campaigning, enhances voter turnout. So there you go. While the research on negative advertising in political campaigns has painted something less than a clear picture on most counts, one thing is increasingly clear. Voters overwhelmingly dislike negative advertising and are troubled by its widespread use. According to a recent bipartisan survey commissioned by the Project on Campaign Conduct, voters are not overjoyed with today's political candidates and their campaign tactics. Some highlights from the survey: 59% believe that all or most candidates deliberately twist the truth.
Yeah.
39% believe that all or most candidates deliberately lie to voters. 43% believe that most or all candidates deliberately make unfair attacks on their opponents. Another 45% believe that some candidates do. 67% say that they can trust the government in Washington only some of the time or never. And 87% are concerned about the level of personal attacks in today's political campaigns.
And the most disturbing is when you're lying about your own record to make it sound better. When you actually say you voted for a bill when in essence you did not. Is that on there?
Well, that goes back to 39% believe that all or most candidates deliberately lie to voters.
Yeah. And about your own record, which you can look up. Look up anyone's record. You can just look it up.
We'll be right back. 7360300 is the number to call here this morning on Top Story. Welcome back. And we're talking about negative campaign ads.
Yes, we are. Negativity is so awful.
It is, and it's effective. I don't care what they say. Negative advertising works. I've seen it time and time again, and I know that the results that they've done in their little surveys here makes it inconclusive. But
you know what really works is when you tape most of your shows and you just forward through the ads, which is what we do.
Oh, yeah.
We tape the news, we tape this, we tape that.
They call it TiVo.
Yeah, I think that's the generic term because I think they're going to lose. TiVo's probably going to lose their trademark. But, you know, if we watch a football game, like say we'll just start saving up the time while we eat dinner and then you go and you can rush through that. You know, it's so annoying now that we catch up. You're like, but honestly, I haven't seen many because most everything we do is taped, which I love.
Yeah, I know. And that's not only the case with just political advertising, but if it, I mean, that frankly, that's how the broadcast world survives, is through advertising.
They can't be happy with me, and here I work for a radio station.
And so if nobody's listening to the ads and the ads aren't getting results, then the people quit purchasing the ads, and then the
heavens.
Radio and TV stations around the country will just close up.
Well, I just can't wait for our election bonus.
You'll just have, right.
Yeah.
That's a funny one. That's a good one.
I told you I was a comedian. There you go.
But 7360300 is the number to call. Have you ever, let me put it this way, have you ever been influenced by a negative ad?
Are you sick of them? Whatever.
Well, I think that's a foregone conclusion. I think everybody is sick of them.
How many people think they're effective? And it really worked.
Or how many have had personal experience with one working? I mean, I have to admit, and I can't think of the instance right now, but I know in the past, I think so-and-so is probably going to be the right person. And then you see an ad come on or hear an ad come on that says so-and-so did this or da-da, and then you get to think, oh, wow.
But then I look it up.
Am I making a mistake?
Look it up then. Go on.
7360300. Top Story, you're on the air. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Kelly and Jill. I'm so sick and tired of the negative ads. I feel like people can't run on, if they got to attack their opponent because their record is so shady or, what's going on with that. I also would like to just say I just voted, and what would be curious for me is to see if how many people would know how to vote if they took away the Democrat or Republican logo next to the name.
I know.
Yeah.
What would that do? I think that would be very interesting on the vote then if you actually had to find out who these people were and what party they represented. But hopefully you educated yourself on some of the.
I vote
I'm not a one-party voter. So.
Good, thank you.
Take care, guys.
Thanks for calling in.
Actually, that would be a good
It'd be
experiment.
awesome.
Yeah.
Cover it all up, and then what? Whoa.
That would be.
Then you'd actually have to look at someone's voting record. Hello.
7360300. Top story. You're on the air. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Yeah, last week I was listening to another talk show that comes out of the Valley.
What?
Comes on after your show.
Okay.
And 2 or 3 people called up about an ad against Belukoff, and they were saying that they couldn't believe, or actually they did believe, but why would Belukoff be putting that ad?
Yeah.
And an article in the newspaper just came out like a day before that ad, and since then I've heard it. And Kelly, I think you even mentioned that people came up to you and mentioned that they believed the ad was from Belukoff. And so the host on a break looked up some information and got on the air and said that it wasn't Belukoff's ad, but it's an anonymous donor.
Well, they did find out the donor. It was in the paper. It
Policy
was
for Change or something like that.
They did have the name. I read it in the paper, so they did find out who it was.
Not the actual person who gave the money, but it came.
Who the organization was.
Yeah. Right, the organization.
Well,
and then, but not the person who gave the money.
Yeah, because our laws protect that. Isn't that
and
nice?
I hate these negative ads. It's just like low.
Have they ever influenced you, though?
No.
Never?
It makes me mad. No.
Good.
Okay.
Well, it makes me influence against the person that's doing the ad.
Yeah, exactly.
I go the opposite way. I guess that person's such a lowlife, I don't want to have anything to do with him.
That's true.
Yeah, I know. And
you have to wonder.
Especially when they take stuff out of context. It just, when I see that, and again, I'm not a fan of Obama, but when people put these little videos on Facebook and stuff, did you hear what Obama said today? Some little short sentence.
And how things are doctored.
About nobody in their right mind would say that, and then they put it on there, and then just. What's really sad is to see the comments that follow because they believed it.
Yeah.
And it's not doing, again, like I say, if you want to condemn the guy, condemn him with truth. There's plenty of that to use against him. You don't have to use the lies. And
here's a news flash.
Your
Why don't
low information voters that believe the stuff that just as it's posted, that's dangerous.
Why don't they demand from the candidates what they're going to do for you? You never hear what they're going to do for you, what they're going to vote for, how they're going to represent, why don't they come out and say, hey, this is what I'm going to do if I'm reelected because I didn't do it the last time, right? Come on.
Yeah, I know. I find that funny, too.
Yeah, now I'll work for you. Well, what have you been doing this whole time? Good gosh.
I don't think they meant it to sound that way, but
it
unfortunately,
just does.
Perception is reality. So, at any rate, but we
keep voting. Keep voting, people.
We have the Huckabee Report now, brought to you by Waddell & Reed. You can hear the Huckabee Report each weekday at this time, brought to you exclusively by Waddell & Reed. Laura Nelson, Josh Funk, and Steve Stanger are the financial advisors, and the number is 736-6563. We have yet not talked about Canyon Pond today.
What?
They are one of the sponsors of the show.
Then we need to talk about them.
Yes. And a lot of folks are stopping by every day saying that Kelly and Jill told them to stop by.
And we do.
Dave is thrilled with that.
Well, I'm glad, Dave. Yeah. It's a beautiful place.
It is.
How often do you say that about a pawn shop?
I know, exactly.
And his cases are beautiful.
Yes, they are. Just to go and see the cases that he built for the gun cabinets
He actually said someone asked if he would build their own cases. He's like, no, I spent a lot of time building my own. Really, the woodwork
he says,
is
no,
beautiful.
I'm not a woodworker.
Yeah. Yes.
But at any rate, they've got everything you would expect to see in a pawn shop, camping stuff and woodwork. To say what they carry is really kind of a moot point because what they have today, they'll have something different tomorrow. They'll have additional stuff tomorrow. It's a pawn shop.
If
you're looking for something, go in there and see if they've got it. If they don't have it today, they might have it tomorrow. They do have guns, and they've got watches, and they've got jewelry and stuff. So go on in. They're at on Shoshone Street, right across from Will's Toyota, 3rd Avenue South.
Can't
Easy
miss
to find.
it.
Big sign on the front of the building.
Sign out there.
Canyon
Very
Pond.
nice, Dave and Daniel.
By the way, and I haven't mentioned this yet, and I meant to mention it several times, we will have election results tonight.
Right.
In Idaho, we can't start with election results until after 9 o'clock.
Which, much to Kelly's chagrin.
There is a reason for that, and it's a stupid reason.
It's not a stupid reason.
North Idaho is in the Pacific time zone, so North Idaho doesn't get to 8 o'clock when the polls close until we are at 9.
Well, we had a caller who said, it's depressing when you hear the results on the East Coast and da-da-da. It's the same thing for Idaho. It would discourage people from voting. Oh, it's already done. My vote doesn't count. Get out there. Every vote counts.
And so anyway, we'll have election results tonight starting. I mean, we might do some preliminary stuff.
Yeah.
Steve Millington's going to be at the GOP headquarters. You're going to be...
The Dems are going to be at the Slice on downtown Main Street.
So we can talk to you and get the mood, and talk to Steve and get the mood. And then when
if the results are bad, don't expect me in tomorrow. No, but you know what? I keep an open mind. They say the election's already won. It's never won until it's counted. And they said that Romney was going to win. They said Eric Cantor was going to win by 34 points. Keep up the hope. Keep up the faith. You can make change. Go out there and vote. You can't change if you don't vote. So, don't let someone else make a decision for you.
So we'll see you tonight for the election results, and back here tomorrow on Top Story. And Randy Staples will join us again to give us kind of a post-election wrap-up.
That's right.
And analysis.
Yes.
All right. Have a good day. We'll see you tomorrow. Goodbye, Jill.
Bye, Cal.